love that music for the Winter Olympics episodes. But is it too Christmassy, Bree Walker?
Oh, it does have a Christmassy vibe, but the whole white Christmas kind of winter feel. I think people get the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. But the most important question of this whole podcast, I think, is it's Anzac Day today. Mm-hmm. Who's winning the footy? You're a Bombers fan,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Look, you're wearing an Essendon scarf. You're ready to go.
Yeah,
I'm going to the game too. So, look, fingers across. We're praying to the Bomber gods out there that we're going to get up. So, yeah, fingers crossed that we can get the job done today.
When was the last time you went to a game? Because you live overseas, right?
Actually, I honestly think it was probably Anzac Day 2019.
Oh,
I go each year with my friend Felicity, who is a Collingwood supporter.
Okay.
So it's always a great day out. It's the best rivalry. And yeah, it's such a fun day. So
2019 though, that was a sad day.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
I remember her being
very
arrogant and leaving the place. Was it wet? I feel like it was also rainy. I can't remember too well. We've been to a few of them, so they're all mushing into one. But I must admit, I did go to a... Nah, that was before. I took Christian, my German boyfriend, to a football.
Showed him the footy.
Yeah, I took him to another Collingwood game. It was Collingwood and Geelong game. And he loved it. He thought it was a bit chaotic because he's used to soccer, which is a little bit more orderly. But yeah, no, he did love it.
Is he an Essendon fan?
Yes, of course.
Good.
He's a big Tipper fan.
Oh.
And he really wants a Dreamtime jersey this year, and so I need to get it to him because I've been promising for the last few years, so I need to get him a Dreamtime jersey.
We were talking about the gift you got you on the Pocket Profile episode, and yeah, Dreamtime jersey would be absolutely awesome from you as well. But taking a break from the footy now, moving onto your sports, because you're taking a break from it at the moment, aren't you?
Yes.
So you come back here, and I saw you said on Instagram that you've been reflecting, focusing more on what's going on between the years. So what have you been reflecting about? Anything you've learned over this little period?
Yeah, I think it's been a really important time for me to reflect mentally on what I've just experienced, and then also what I want to achieve in the future. And so that's allowed me to take a time away physically from my sport and just work on what's going on between the years and just check into my mindset and my mentality and how I can improve that way. So then when I go back into sport or my training physically, I'm going to have a better mindset and a better approach to it all. So
what methods are you going to use when you're going back into training that you've kind of realised over this little break?
Just the way that I'm talking to myself sometimes. So I can be quite hard on myself. Yeah. I have high expectations and I want to be able to perform and produce all the time. But that sometimes doesn't always happen. But you don't need to talk badly about yourself. You don't need to put yourself down because you haven't been able to perform on a certain day. All you need to do is be able to address what didn't go so well, but then also address what did go well. So then you can keep those kind of aspects of your performance or your training session, and then just change what didn't go so well so it can go better next time. So that's just one example of what I'm doing. So did you do the Olympics and then went on break straight away? Yes. Okay. So I think we'll go in depth on the Olympics in a bit, but just quickly for the people who don't know everything about you, what were the events that you were in? I was in the monobob, which is the single-person bobsleigh, and then the two-man bobsleigh, which is obviously I got myself and my teammate Kiara Dingus. Okay, so you got those two events. Mm-hmm. Can you break them down for us? Because I don't think we've got a massive community of bobsleigh fans who tune into the show. No, they're not experts. I'd be very surprised if you did. So the single-person bobsleigh or the monobob event was introduced this last Olympic cycle. So it was the first time it was ever competed at Olympics in Beijing. And so pretty much I just push a sled by myself and then I jump in and I drive down the track by myself. It's a little bit different because obviously I'm pushing a much heavier sled both sleds, the 2-man and the monobob, are exactly the same weight, but it's obviously I don't have anybody helping me, so it is a lot heavier. So the technique to push is a little bit different, and then the driving is also a little bit different because I don't have somebody weighing down the sled in the back. But then you have the 2-man event, so it's I push actually the sled from the side, and then I have a teammate pushing from the back. And then when I load in, she'll load in after me. And then she just sits in the sled and goes along for the ride while I'm driving down the track. And then when we cross the line, she pulls the brakes so we can stop.
So she's not doing anything?
No.
Chiara?
No.
So that could, like, other than the pushing, that could just be anyone doing that, really?
Well,
obviously it's a hard thing to do.
Yes.
But yeah, after you're pushing, you just, you
just jump in and then hold on to the frame and put your head down and just hope that I do the best job possible.
Right, and how long are these courses?
They go for roughly about a minute. They're 50 seconds to a little bit over a minute. And
what about
so
distance-wise?
Distance-wise, they're probably about 1 kilometre to 1,500 metres.
So how fast do you reckon you're going?
We're going in the 2-man, we're probably going 130 to 140 kilometres an hour, and in the monobob, we're going about 120 to about 130 kilometres an hour.
Jeez, do you get scared?
No, to say scared is not entirely correct. There is some times where it can be a little bit like you can get a lot of like nerves and anxiety before a run, but during a run, I wouldn't say being scared is the correct way to describe it. It's just because you're so focused and you're so in the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more prior to the run, you can get a little bit nervous and anxiety and have a lot of anxiety for it. But that's in any competition, and you just have to learn different techniques in order to be able to overcome that.
How frequent have crashes been for you in your time doing it?
They can be pretty frequent, and I guess my development has been kind of fast-tracked over the last few years, and in that being the case, you're obviously pushing the limits a lot more, and so crashes do occur quite a lot. Yeah, but it's a part of sport, and they're not as bad as what they sound. Let's just say they can be they can hurt, obviously, because crashing does hurt. But yeah, they're not as bad as what I guess the general public may seem.
So you'd have a helmet, right? Anything else? Protective gear?
Yeah, not really. Not like you don't have shoulder pads or anything like that. You have padding inside the sled to help reduce the impact of hitting the walls and obviously crashing. You wear a Kevlar vest, so to prevent ice burns. And then in training we'll wear like a tracksuit onesie. But on the race day you're just wearing Lycra thin because it has to be aerodynamic and allow you to move as fast as possible.
Right. Before bobsled, though, hurdles, right? How good were you at hurdles back in the day? And 400 metres?
Yeah, 400 metre hurdle. I was a 400 metre hurdler, and I didn't do it as long as what people think I did. I was mainly a 400 metre runner, and my coach always wanted me to get into 400 metre hurdles because when I came to him, I originally was like, I'm a 400 metre runner and I'm a 100 metre hurdler. And he's like, oh, so you're a 400 metre hurdler? And I was like, no, 400 metres / 100 metre hurdler. And he was like, we'll see. And so I trained with him for a few years, and the height over those years increased on my hurdles, and I just couldn't make the distance anymore in my 100 metres. And so I was like, no, I'll just focus more on the 400 because that was going quite well. I was medaling at state, and I had gone to nationals, and I made the final there, and so I was doing quite well there. And then I remember my last year, after my last junior nationals, my coach again tried to get me into 400 hurdles. He said, just do your 400 hurdles to help improve your 400. And I was like, okay. He's like, either that or you do an 800. I'm like, no, 1 lap's enough for me. So I'm going to go give 400 metre hurdles a go. And I did it, and I actually really enjoyed it. I liked that it was like, each hurdle was like a progression in the race, and you had something to focus on rather than just the pain that you're going through, because the 400 metres can be very painful. And yeah, I did one race and I liked it. I did another race and I really liked it. And I also improved significantly. And my coach said to me, he's like, you could go on and win state if you actually trained and we focused on this. And I was like, okay, let's give it a go. And so I trained for a few months and then I was able to go on and win state. And then I progressed to nationals there and I made the final there. And then the following year, I actually got a scholarship to a college in America. And so I went over there on a full ride, and that was a really fantastic experience. But I actually became quite injured, and I was injured going over to America, and I just couldn't recover from that injury. And also my training changed quite a lot because they were heavily focused on training in the gym. And that was something that I hadn't been exposed to yet as a young athlete.
How old were you at this stage?
I was 21.
Okay.
And I didn't really do any weights up until that point. I had maybe gone and done a little bit of circuit work, but never any like real strength work. And I said to my coach, I go, I know my body type. If I do a lot of heavy weights, I'm going to put on muscle. And he said, no, don't worry, not with our training, we won't do that. But a year of doing weights, I put on quite a substantial amount of weight, and I opened up my second year at college with my slowest 400 meter that I had done since I was like 16. And I was like, yeah, okay, my purpose to come over to America was to be faster, and I'm getting slower, so I don't think this is the right place for me. So that's when I packed up and went home.
So when you started putting on that weight with those training methods, were the alarm bells ringing for you, or the coaches or the trainers or anything like that?
Yes and no, because I was improving. And so I thought, okay, if I'm improving in the gym, surely I'm going to improve on the track.
Yeah.
But I don't think the training that I was doing on the track was complementing what I was doing in the gym. I was doing a lot of heavy, powerful stuff, but then going out and doing a lot of long distance running. And they're completely two different kinds of training. And so because I was like doing a lot of long distance tempo work, and then doing heavy weights, I just like the combination just made me quite slow.
Did you try to raise it with them that you thought the training methods might have been a bit off, not quite right?
Yeah, but they were very convinced that it was going to work.
But it didn't?
No.
So by the end of it, they must have known that it wasn't working, right?
Yes, but I think they'd probably experienced that with athletes before, and maybe eventually it would have worked for me, but I just didn't really, I don't know, it just wasn't sitting right with me, and I knew the potential that I had, and I knew where I wanted to be, and if I carried on with that for a longer period of time, I just don't think I would have been where I wanted to be. So yeah, I knew I needed to go home.
So when you were a runner and a hurdler, did you have, what was the kind of aspiration for you, like a goal that you were aiming for?
Yeah, it was to get to the Olympics. I wanted to represent Australia at the top level and at the world stage, because for me, they were the athletes that were the best in the world. And so I wanted to go to world championships. I wanted to, Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, because they were the best in the world. And I wanted to be one of those athletes. I wanted to be the best of the world. So that was the real goal for me.
How close do you think you were?
Looking back now, I think I had a long way to go. But there and then in the moment, I thought I had I would have been maybe one Olympic cycle away from doing it. And I think if I persisted, I would have been able to maybe go to the Olympics, but it probably only would have been in like a relay. And I don't think I would have, if I made it in an individual event, I'm not sure if I would have made a semi or a final. I just would have been able to go there and say, okay, I'm an Olympian now. I would have been satisfied with that, but I'm so much more satisfied with what I'm doing now in bobsleigh.
So were you fully motivated at the end of your time as a runner or a hurdler? And did you, like, as soon as the college experience finished, was that when your career finished in that?
No. I came home from that college experience and I was just like, I want to find the fire again, because it did burn me out a little bit, because of course, like, I'm training so hard over there, and it was a big goal of mine to go to a college in America, because I did think, like, looking at those American athletes and the ones who were successful, they all went to college. So I'm like, if I go and do that, I'm going to be as successful as them. And for that not to happen, it was quite deflating. And so I did come home and I was like, I want to find the love of my sport again and get back to where I was. And so I found a new coach. I started working with Peter Fortune, who was actually Kathy Freeman's old coach. Oh. And he was amazing. He just took me under his wing and he's like, we've got a lot of work to do, but like, I think we can get you back up there. And so I just was, that whole winter, I just like worked so hard and I was really starting to improve. But then I was actually watching the Rio Olympics and I had to ask myself the hard question. And that was I going to be able to represent Australia at the highest level in 400-meter hurdles? And the hard answer was no, because I knew where I was in my athletic ability. I knew who was coming through, and there were so many young, talented athletes coming through that I was going to have to really fight to get up to the top again. And yeah, I just was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this in the time frame that I thought as an athlete at that time that I had, because I guess like back when I was, I don't know, 22, 23, I thought in order to be at the top level, I have to do that at this age. I have to do this quite young, because that's the only athletes I knew, and all my role models did that when they were so young. But now you can see so many older athletes competing at the Olympics that are now mums and they're into their 30s. And so maybe I'd have a different view on that now. But yeah, for me, I was just like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this in 400-meter hurdles, so maybe my talents lie elsewhere. And so that's when I simply just Googled whether we had an Australian bobsleigh team.
So yeah, why did you Google that?
Oh, I like it. I guess you can't ignore the fact that Cool Runnings is the only way the Australian public knows the sport, originally from bobsleigh. I hope they know a little bit more now since after the Olympics, but they were all sprinters. And so it was always in the back of my mind that maybe after my athletic career, I'll transfer over to bobsleigh.
Purely because of Cool Runnings?
That, and then also Jana Pittman being a big role model of mine as a 400-meter hurdler. She actually transferred over to bobsleigh for the Sochi Olympics, and so that was in 2014. So this is obviously very close in time frame. Like, I was watching the Rio Olympics in 2016, and Jana had just competed at the Sochi Olympics in 2014. And so I was like, okay, cool, Jana did it. I'm for sure I can go and do it. And I knew I was so young and I still had so much more to give. And I knew I could compete at the high level. I just needed to find my sport. And I guess I found that in bobsleigh now.
So you've done quite well in bobsleigh, and you were clearly quite a talented runner, hurdler. What do you think has made you such a good athlete just across multiple sports, on the physical side of things and the mental side of things?
I think it would have to be my perseverance, and also ignoring the naysayers. I think there is a lot of people out there, and they have good intentions sometimes, because they don't want you to go and waste your time or get hurt or anything like that. But there is a lot of opinions out there that, you know, oh, you're not good enough for this, or, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to become an elite athlete, and, oh, there's not much financial benefit in that. Or even when it comes to winter sports, oh, Australians aren't, you know, known for their winter sports. Like, you're not going to be able to compete against the big nations and all that. So my ability to just ignore the naysayers and go forth and do it. And honestly, that's the worst thing anybody can do, is tell me I can't do something, because I'll go out and want to prove them wrong every single day of the week. And my perseverance and my determination is something that I guess is why I've become as good as I am, because I just persevere even when the going gets tough, even when like there's no money, there's no sponsors, there's no teammates, there's no coaches. Like, I'll just persevere, I'll just keep going, because eventually something comes through.
It's so evident, that perseverance, and it's like, especially when you probably have people fairly close to you being naysayers like that with all the best intentions, but that'd be very tricky. But when you're starting in bobsled, give us a little crash course about how you even begin to become a bobsledder.
It's funny you call it a crash course, because that's sometimes what it can be. Well, when I first began, I went to a talent identification camp, and just got put through a whole bunch of physical tests. So it was like squats, power cleans, which I honestly hadn't done a lot of.
What was that? Power cleans?
Cleans. Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, it's an Olympic lift where you lift the bar from the ground, and then you catch it like on your collarbone, and then also like 30-meter sprint, standing long jump, standing vertical jump, and they just put you through all those testing, and I achieved the standards that they were satisfied with, and they were like, "Okay, would you like to go over and learn how to drive a bobsleigh?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, that's exactly what I want to do." And they're like, "Okay, you leave in a month." And
Leaving to Canada, was it?
Yes, yeah, okay. Canada, in Whistler in Canada. And I had to raise all this money in a matter of a month in order to be able to do that. So I raised $10,000 just through fundraising and finding sponsors and all that. And I was so naive to it all, but I was just so determined to do it. I was just like, yeah, I'll do that. And I made it happen, and I went over to Whistler, and pretty much they show you, you walk down the bobsleigh track and they show you, okay, you have to turn left here, you have to turn right here, left here, right here. It's a big corner. So,
and how are you turning?
So it's like a go-kart.
Okay.
And so it's just a pulley system. It's just back and forth.
Yeah.
And that just turns the runners underneath the sled left and right.
Right. Okay.
And you obviously have to turn it at different intensities, because if a corner is really short, then you would like turn it this way, and a corner is much longer. You correct the nose in the beginning, so you turn the nose right, and then at the end you would then have to steer it off, so then you turn the nose. And so it is quite technical, but in the beginning they're just teaching you to turn like left and right. And so then you sit in the sled and they go, "You ready?" And I'm like, "I think so." And I said to myself, I was like, if you get to the bottom and you hate this, you don't have to do this. But if you don't hate it, like, just keep going. And I got to the bottom and I was like, I have no idea what I just did then. I don't think I saw half the track. But I didn't hate it. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go again. And I went again and again and again. And I started getting better and better. I started seeing more of the track, understanding more what I needed to do. And in the beginning, you start quite low down the track. So you start at like corner 9, let's just say, and out of a 15-corner track. And so we start at corner 9, and then the better you get, they progress you up. So then they move you up to, let's just say, corner 6. And then you enter the track at corner 6, and so you have to do more corners, and you're getting faster. And then the better you get, then they progress you up higher, and then we enter in at corner 3. So that was really exciting for me, because you could like see the progression, and you could see how much better you're getting. Especially by each time you get to move up the track. And then once you get to the top, that's such a thrilling experience, because you're like, I'm at the top of the mountain now.
Yeah.
And then going down the track, I'll never forget going down the track from the top the first time. It was so thrilling. And then I think that was the moment when I was like, I love this sport, and I'm going to go, and I want to be one of the best in this sport. So, the rest is history.
What year was this?
2016-17.
Okay, right. And
no? Yes.
How long between you looking this up and then you going from the top of the course?
It was August 2016, and I was in Whistler at October 2016.
Jesus, that's incredible.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the funding there. Mm-hmm. Does the government fund you at all?
So in the beginning, in 2016, it all had to come out of our own pocket.
Right.
And so if you wanted to do the sport, you had to pay for it yourself. And so obviously then that's a huge commitment. And then obviously the better you got and the more competitive you wanted to be, the more you had to invest. And it wasn't until after the 2018 Olympics was when I started getting funding from the OWIA, so the Olympic Winter Institute of Australia. They wanted to support me with an individual scholarship, so that was my first little bit of funding that I got, and that was very exciting. And then it slowly progressed. Like the more results you get, the better results you get, the more funding you do receive. So I do receive a little bit more now, but the sport is so expensive that, like, for example, my 2-man sled costs 100,000 Australian dollars.
Oh my God.
So, like, even though the government does provide me, or like institutes do provide me with a bit of funding, it's nowhere near enough in order to be able to cover all the costs that a bobsleigh season does entail.
Right, and just very quickly, we spoke to Nick Timmings, skeleton, a few months ago, I think, before the Winter Olympics, and he was saying it's so expensive, the sleds, because just one or two companies just have a complete monopoly or duopoly over the market, even though they're not that expensive to produce. They just sell them for massive profits, right?
Yeah, because there's not that many options.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, crazy. But spoke about the, complete lack of government funding at the start there. How did that make you feel at the time, there being no support from the government, especially compared to other sports when they're swimming in it?
Honestly, I was very naive to it all because I never received any funding in track and field. So anything that I ever wanted to achieve, like if I wanted to go to nationals, if I wanted to go compete at track classics, I had to do that all myself and I had to pay for it all myself. So I knew no other way. It obviously, as I've progressed along and I've obviously been associated with the German team because of my boyfriend Christian, I've seen how much funding and how much support those big nations do get. And so I do obviously realise that there is a lack of support in Australia. But in saying that, though, it's a sport we haven't had that much success in the past, so why would the Australian government put money into that? But I'm hoping now with the more success that we are getting, or myself getting in the sport, the more funding is going to become available to us. Yeah,
at that stage, before you came around and it was a sport no one knew anything about other than cool runnings, like you said, and like there'd been no success in it Australia-wise, do you think it deserved funding when it was a sport where there was no hope of anyone getting medals or anything like that?
I do think there was athletes in the past that did deserve some kind of support, because you obviously need some kind of support in order to be able to get results, but I never allowed the lack of support and funding to be able to affect my ability to go out and get results. So I was like, okay, I need funding to be able to get results. I'll just do it myself. And so I just sourced out sponsors and made connections with people who were able to help me in ways that they could provide materials, because funding is also, and money itself is very hard to come by, but materials aren't so hard to come by. So that's how I was able to do it. But I do believe that in the past, athletes have deserved funding, because they've gone out there, they've done hard work and everything like that. But I just don't think it was looked at or taken seriously until I guess I came along, and also monobob came along. Monobob changed the game for the sport, especially in Australia, because monobobs, which is something I forgot to mention before, all the sleds in monobob are standardised. So everybody has the same sled. And that made a huge difference because we weren't disadvantaged with our lack of finances to be able to afford the high-level equipment that a lot of the big funded teams like Germany, they have these amazing sleds because they can afford them, but small countries like Australia can't afford those. So monobob changed the game for us, and it became more enticing for the institutes to be able to go, yep, we're going to support that because we're going to have more we're going to be more likely to succeed in this sport.
Yeah, right. You mentioned public funding there. You raised a certain amount of money just by general public wanting to help you out. Lots of people are probably not so much into sport would say, oh, this should be going to this cause, that cause, the other cause, whatever. Why? What would you say to them if they said that?
I would say you're not necessarily supporting the sport. You're supporting the person and the journey that they are on. Because everybody, a lot of people have big goals and dreams and aspirations. And if you take the time to listen and hear about people's journeys and what they want to achieve, it's really quite inspiring. And so I think that's why people have gotten behind me, because I have shared my aspirations and I've shared my journey and like, you know, my triumphs and my struggles. And then that's why people have come on and supported me, because they've seen that it's worth giving their time and their money towards. I completely understand why people would say, why would I support bobsleigh? But you don't necessarily support bobsleigh or the sport. You support the person and their dreams.
Right. They might also say that, like, they wouldn't know that much about you without having to look it up at that point, right? So they wouldn't know how successful you are, how much of a chance you are of being on the TV with a gold medal, all that kind of thing. So they might say, oh, she might as well be like a professional tree climber or something, right? Or like professional Cluedo player.
Yeah.
So, like, what makes it like you different to compared to the professional tree climbers or whatever it is?
I think you obviously have to look up my story to be able to find that out. I don't think you would know any different if you didn't take the time and effort to listen to what athletes have to say and the journey that they've been on.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes complete sense. I was just devil's advocate there, totally in support of the public funding and all that.
No, I think you have to, but then also that's the athlete's responsibility then to be able to put their journey out there to the general public. Like, to get support, you have to put yourself out there, and that's something I've learned along the way, and it's also been quite confronting for me because I am quite a private person, and I do, like, there'll be some times where I have hiatuses on Instagram because, like, I'll be, like, you know, going through, like, stressful times, and I'll just be focusing on what I need to do, like, in person, but I don't, and then I forget to, like, share what I'm going through on social platforms. So yeah, that's my responsibility, is to make sure I keep informing people of what I'm going through, and what I'm experiencing, so then they can feel like they're on the journey with me, and then they will likely to get behind me.
Can you tell us about the story of you and the 2018 Olympics in Pyeongchang?
Yeah, so as a rookie team, I was selected as the pilot, and we went on the 2017-2018 season to try and qualify for the 2018 Winter Olympics. And at that stage, there was a continental position. So it was to encourage countries from Oceania and Africa to be able to participate in bobsleigh. And so all it meant that we needed to tick off the international criteria of competing in 5 races on 3 different tracks over 2 years. And we did that. We actually did that by Christmas time. And so in our minds, especially my mind as a pilot, because there's no other pilot in the team, I was like, okay, we have done our job. We will be going to the next Olympics. And we wanted to continue racing and sliding because I wanted to improve my skills, and we wanted to improve as a team. So we actually went over to Europe, and we competed in the European Cup, and that was an amazing experience, and it's completely eye-opening because the teams over there are amazing, and they're funded, and they're very structured, and it was my first time to be Europe as well, so it was just a wonderful experience.
That was your first time in Europe ever?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just such a whirlwind of an experience, and that's where I fell in love with Europe, was just my first experience of it. And when it came around to announcing the quota positions for the Olympics, we actually did receive a quota position from the International Federation, but our Australian Federation didn't nominate us to obtain that position because they didn't believe that we had satisfied their in-house criteria. We had, like, certain criteria that we needed to tick off from the Australian Federation, and they were like, you haven't done that, so we're not going to nominate you. And it was really disappointing, and especially because the AOC was so supportive of it, and they were like, we don't care that they haven't satisfied the Australian criteria. We just want as many competitors as we can to represent Australia at these Olympics. And also, like, people like Britt Cox and Scotty James, who have competed at such a young age in like such a early stage of their career, they've gone on to become like Olympic medalists and world champions, and that's what they wanted for us. They wanted us to experience the Olympic event, so then we could go on and be successful in future Olympics. And our federation wasn't having it, and so they just didn't nominate us, so I didn't get to compete at the 2018 Winter Olympics.
What were those criteria?
There was physical standards, and so I think all three of us girls, we didn't achieve one physical standard each. And there was also push start standards, which gets a little bit complicated for everybody, but we had a certain time that we needed to beat. And being such a young rookie team, we just didn't have the physical capabilities to be able to achieve those times, because those times were created from World Cup athletes. And so it was a really hard I guess target for us to meet, but we gave it our best. We just fell short, and instead of providing us with the opportunity to go on and experience a big event to hopefully better our future, a federation said, no, you're not going.
Can you give us a bit of a look into the mind of Bree Walker after you find out that you're not going to be able to go to those Olympics, when you thought you were nailed on?
Yeah, well, as I said, as the pilot, I just had this such a strong feeling that I was going. And so it was just no doubt in my mind that I was going to the Olympics. And so when we got the phone call, we were sitting in our truck in St. Moritz in Switzerland. We had just finished training there for the World Junior Champs, and we were like, okay, like we're having this phone call. And I was more nervous because I didn't know out of my teammates who I'd be competing with. So that's all I was nervous for, was because I knew one girl was going to be very happy and one girl was going to be very sad. And so I'm sitting there just anticipating that. And then the federation said that, no, we're not going to nominate you. And I completely broke down. I think the girls were just as upset as I was, but I was just completely blindsided. And it just went into survival mode there. So I was calling people from the AOC to try and be like, what has happened here? I actually also was talking with Jana Pittman, because she contacted me asking me, when is the announcement going to be made? Are you going to the Olympics? And then I told her, and she called me, and just talking it out with her was really bizarre, because she was obviously like such a role model for me, but I'm talking out with her on the same level. And it was, she's like, we need to go to the media about this. Like they can't do this to you. And, it's quite a blur reflecting on it now, but I just remember just being in such a survival mode, because again, I was so determined to get there. And I thought I still had this strong sense that we were going to get there. Like, it was just going to be a bit of a fight to get there, but in the end we didn't.
Has it changed you and as an athlete now, that experience?
Yes, it meant, for me, it was just like, okay, if these standards, if there's set standards that we have to achieve, we just have to achieve them. We have to go, we have to tick the box, and then leave. And that's been my attitude the whole time. And there's sometimes you obviously, you don't necessarily agree with what those standards are, but standards are there to be achieved. And I think it also pushes athletes to be better. I do obviously disagree with the decision that was made back then, because it was just going to be helping us improve to become better in the future. And that's why we would have gone to those Olympics. However, I do believe that standards help athletes to become better, and it gives you something to strive for. So I do support them.
Right. And you were speaking about Jana Pittman as a mentor there. Mm-hmm. Lydia Lassler, we were speaking about off air.
Yes.
So completely different sport to sports. Both, like, obviously Jana Pittman was in bobsleigh, but she was Summer Olympian before that.
Yep.
But Lydia Lassler, totally different. How did she become your mentor? And tell us about her as a mentor.
Yeah, I actually contacted Lyd over Instagram because I saw that, I think somebody asked her in a Q&A what she does for a living, and she mentioned that she runs a few companies and she's also a mentor for athletes. And I obviously know of her story, and I know that she was all about pushing the limits and achieving something that nobody had ever achieved before. And I was like, that's what I'm about. Like, I want to go to these next Olympics, and I just want to be the best in the world at bobsleigh, and I want to go and win medals and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, I also was feeling like sports psychology wasn't really for me at the time, and I had gotten a lot out of sports psychology, but I also knew that I probably could get more out of getting advice from athletes who had been there and done all that. So I just messaged her and I said, hey, and I just expressed all the things that I just said. I said, I would be interested in working with you if you're interested in working with me. She said, let's get on a phone call and let's see, like, let's talk it out. And we talked it out for an hour or so, and instantly we clicked, and it seemed very natural to talk with her, and she kind of was on the same energy level as me. And yeah, it's been fantastic.
So is she like a paid coach type role, or more just like a mentor who's doing this for free and all that?
No, I'm an ambassador for her companies. Okay. And so then that's how it works. So I have to represent her brands on World Cup, and then also like in my everyday life. Yeah. And then she is my mentor in return.
There you go. Good deal. You're speaking about the World Cup. You've won a few medals in the World Cup, right? Mm-hmm. Just before the Beijing Olympics?
Yes, yeah. So over the last 2 years, monobob became part of the World Cup circuit. Yeah. And yeah, I've won, I think, 2 gold, 3 silver and a bronze. So across the last 2 years. So yeah, that's been amazing. It's been such a surreal experience to be able to challenge some of the best in the world, and to be like going head to head with them with like hundreds of seconds between us. And that's where I thrive, when the race is so close and I know that there's somebody who I used to look up to so much, and to know that they are, hunting me down, or I'm hunting them down. That's such a thrill. I love it.
So off the back of all of those, what are you kind of aiming for in the Olympics when it comes around this year, or when they came around this year? This
year? Well, I contacted Lyd because obviously she's been Olympic champion and won Olympic medals and World Cup medals and all that. And so I was just like, I need advice from somebody who's been there and done that, because that's what I want to do. And the closer I got to the Olympics, the more I could see winning a medal being very achievable. And so that's what I was aiming for. I was aiming to win medals at the past Olympics, and it was obviously very heartbreaking for me not to be able to do that in the monobob event, because all throughout that week I had been winning the training runs and I had felt like I was ready to win a medal. And it just came to the first run of that first event, and it was just an experience that I hadn't had before. And it wasn't like I was overly nervous. I actually wasn't really nervous at all. I was very calm, and it was a very different experience that I'd had in, let's just say, in a World Cup event. And I went down and I just wasn't feeling the run. I was just driving and I was just doing it. And I had made a really big error that just cost me for the rest of the way down. And I came up and I was 10th. And I was just like, what on earth was that? And obviously in quick reflection and the mistakes that I made, I was able to make up. I think I came from 10th to 6th in that first day. But I went back into my room that night and I had a talk with my coach, and I said to him, I was like, I don't know what happened, because I actually felt like I was so ready. I wasn't nervous. I was really calm. and he was like, hang on a second, that was your biggest race of your life and you weren't nervous. And I was like, no, I was ready. I didn't have any nerves. He's like, Bree, like, you should be shitting yourself. It's not like you let that overcome you, but you should feel something. You should feel nervous. And I was like, that was the problem. I wasn't feeling it. I was just doing it. And so the next day I went in and I allowed myself to feel everything. I was nervous. I was excited. I was in the moment. I was present. It was a so much better approach to the race. And that day I had the second fastest run for both runs.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to go from 10th the first day to being 5th the next day. And that's why I was so excited. I think, like, if you watch back on my runs, like, I'm, like, coming up the outrun like I'm winning the race because I was so determined to just, like, hunt down those other girls to achieve the best result that I could, because I know I made a mess of it the first day. So, again, I don't think I had absolutely everything I could in order to be able to achieve a medal. It was just lack of experience. And so I'm going to take that experience and obviously put that in to the next, Olympic cycle, world champs, World Cups, and gonna make sure that I never do that and make those mistakes again. Are
you in the prime years for a bobsledder at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. The longer you are in the sport, the better you are. And it's not necessarily physically you get better, but it's more the fact, like, you get more driving hours, because we can only drive on actual bobsleigh tracks from October till end of March.
And they don't have any in Australia, right?
No, overseas, so in Europe and North America.
Yep.
So there's obviously a small amount of time that you can get as many runs as possible. And usually a training session can be, you do maybe 3 to 4 runs a day. And so that's only 4 minutes of training a day. And when you're racing, you can't just go and smash out a whole lot of days. You've got to take into account your recovery and everything like that. So over the last few years, I've really had a lack of runs. So now that I'm going into, I guess, my 3rd Olympic cycle, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get more runs under the belt to be able to refine my skills, to be able to become a better driver.
So when do drivers usually retire? How long do they last in the sport?
I think it's very individual.
Okay.
You usually see a pilot retire within their 30s, but yeah, it's just whether how your body is doing, how your mind is doing, how financially well you're doing, if you want to go off and have a family, all those kind of factors will play into it. So it's very individual.
And we spoke about those kind of themes in the Pocket Profile, which I do encourage people to check out. But the last question, Bree, before we get into our last little fun segment thing, we ask this to everyone. And I've seen you post quite a few motivational quotes, all that kind of thing. You're quite into that. So we ask this to everyone. What is your life philosophy, Bree Walker?
Oh my gosh. That's such yeah. I think it would have to be something along the lines of enjoying the journey. I think you really have to enjoy the journey, embrace the journey, the good and the bad. Like, my purpose in life is to be able to help people become the best versions of themselves through me educating and leading by example. I can only do that if I'm the best version of myself. And I think to be the best version of myself, I have to enjoy the journey. And I think that's probably what my life philosophy is. I want to investigate that a little bit more, because I've never been asked that question before.
Well, it's good. Well, that kind of little motto served you quite well. By the looks of it, you've done quite well for yourself. But our final segment, Bree, we have it at the end of every show. It's everyone's favourite segment. I'll hit the music, because it is called the Where Do We Begin quiz. That music gets me pumped up every single time. So it's very serious stuff.
Okay.
It's Where Do We Begin quiz. I hope you're ready. It's probably the biggest competition you'll be in your life. So we do this at the end of every show, as I say. We've had to change the format a bit since we've gone with the solo host. But first off, I have to ask you, well, we've got 5 questions that are all kind of related to you and your career, very, very, very loosely in this case. So I've got to ask you first up, when's your birthday?
28th of August.
28th of August. So I've got a list of 5 songs that are all top of the charts on the 28th of August throughout the years in Australia. So for all these songs, we've done this type of quiz, this little kind of game a few times before. I've sung all the songs. I'm going to play them for you, but there's a little twist. I've sung them all in a different language.
Oh.
So I'm not good at singing. I'm not good at speaking any other languages. So it's going to sound absolutely horrible, but I'm going to play all these songs for you. 1 point for guessing the song.
Okay.
1 point for guessing the language.
Oh, okay.
Do you speak any other languages?
Oh, no.
No.
But, I mean, I dabble in German.
Okay.
But no, not really. I bet you I'll be able to pick German. The other languages are... We'll see. We'll see how we go.
We'll hope so. But I should just say we're getting a bit of a ladder type thing since we've done this quiz just with the one person, as we've been doing with the solo host. So the one person that we've had do this solo type quiz thing was Gabby Ash a few weeks ago. She got 2 points. So if you can get more than 2 points, you're top of the table.
All right.
Are you ready to go, Bray?
Yeah, go on.
Cool.
Let's go.
Let's go. First song is this, and you can buzz in whenever you want. Obviously, there's no one else doing it, but if you're listening at home, play along and send us in how you go with each question to our socials. Where do we begin? But Bree, here is the first one. You got to get the song, and you got to get the language. Top of the charts on the 28th of August in a particular year. Here it is. Helfen Sie mir, wenn Sie können, ich fühle mich niedergeschlagen und ich weiß, es tut jetzt, dass du bist. Hilf mir wieder auf den Boden zu kommen. Willst du mir bitte, bitte hilf mir, hilf mir, hilf mir. Do you reckon?
I know the song. I cannot tell you the name of it or... No, I can. It's the Beatles. Is Help Me If You Can. I'm like, that's the Help Me If You Can, I'm feeling down.
I'm going to need the name of the song, I'm going to need the language.
It's Dutch.
It's not Dutch.
It's not Dutch.
Dutch is incorrect. That's your guess gone for the language.
No. It was German then, was it?
It was German.
Shit.
I can't give you the points.
No! It just didn't sound German.
30 seconds ago, Bree, you were saying you weren't going to miss German.
Christian is going to be so disappointed.
It's an absolute gimme, the first question, but you've missed it.
Oh, no.
Hopefully we can kind of rejuvenate the last 4, but you got to get the song. Still, what's the song?
Oh, it's the Beatles.
It is the Beatles. No point for that, though. Got to get the name of it.
Is that a point?
It's not a point.
No. I feel like you should give a point for the artist.
Look, hey, Gabby Ash got 2 points, so I've got I think you'll get that quite easily, hopefully. So I've got to be a bit harsh with your ones.
Is it what is it called? Like help me? I don't know. I know the song. You know that I know the song.
I know that you know it, but yeah, look, you haven't given me the correct answer. I've got to give you another incorrect buzzer.
Oh.
It's just called Help.
Is it just called Help?
Just called Help.
Oh, I was so close. I'm actually so embarrassed that I couldn't even get the German. It just didn't sound so German, so I just thought it might have been Dutch. I heard all the German words.
I was like, I'm going to give her an easy one to start with. I'll give her German. I know she lives in Germany. And then you said, I'm going to get German for sure. And then you missed it. Oh, it's disappointing, but...
It is.
We'll move on to the second one, Brie. Hopefully, we can kind of regain a bit of momentum with the second song. Here it is. Warum muss je het so ingewickelt maken? Ik zette meine, waarop je dood alsof je mind aan despent maakt me gefrustreerd. Het leven is zo jij, en je walkt, en je kruipt, en je breekt, en je neemt wat je krijgt, en je verandert het in lekheid. Je hebt met beloofd dat ik genoeg zou vinden, alsof het nep is. Nee. There we go. I was running out of breath at the end of that one. So it wasn't the greatest performance, but have you got any idea what the song of the language was?
Again, I know the artist. It's Avril Lavigne.
It is Avril Lavigne. Oh, no.
Why are you not giving points? Can you give half points for the
I can't,
artist?
unfortunately. Got to stick to the rules.
I'm trying to think of the language. Is it like Russian or something?
Is Russian your guess for the language?
I would have to hear it again, but yeah.
I can play a little bit for you again if you want.
Yeah, go on, play it a little bit again.
Here we go. Warum muss je het zo ingewikkeld maken? Ik zette meine, waarop je doet alsof je mind aan dit punt maakt me gefrustreerd. It's an absolutely butchered version of this language, I think.
No, but I think it must, like, I'm going to say Russian, and I know you're going to give me a buzzer.
I'm going to give you a buzzer.
Yeah.
You're right. Fortunately, that's the only time you've been right during this quiz.
What
Still
is it?
not yet to get on the board. Have you got a song? Do you know what it's called?
Oh. I told you I was really bad at the names of the songs.
Yeah, you did. We did speak about this off air. Yeah.
I'm very good at the artist and even the song.
You were right.
I'm not good at the titles.
Can you kind of get the tune of it in your head and work out the English lyrics?
Nah.
Nah.
What is it? I'm going to kick myself. I know it.
Buzzer. Complicated.
See, I wouldn't have known that title.
And the language, I didn't give you the language. Dutch.
No.
Dutch.
Was it?
Yeah. That was your first guess for the other one as well.
I'm so sad right now. All right, go on. Continue.
We're yet to get on the board. We're on to the third one here, so you can get 6 points if you get everything right with the last 3 songs.
Okay.
That might be a bit of a long shot, but we'll see how it goes. Let's hope that we can get our first point with this song here. Welcome sexy. Da. Vidrkazie gledate kako napadam. Da. Ako je to dvoje dvokabole pazi na leđa. Da. Ječe ona to zapaliti za mene I to je činjenica. Da. O nesi tu uho. Dođi devoj samo napred nastani sim. Dođi pozad samo napred nastani sim. VIP samo napred. Got it?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's Sexy Back.
It is Sexy Back. We're on the board.
Yeah. And...
Do you want me to keep playing? Get the language?
Yeah, go on.
Piches are mine. Davidem sakime se zeras. Pogledajte kukove. Zbog tebe se nejam. Samo na planete. I obuke se sexy. Obuke se sexy.
I don't know the language.
It's a tough language.
Is it Russian? I don't know. I'm just going to say Russian the whole time because I'll regret it if I don't.
Well, the last one we did Barbie Girl in Russian, but there's no Russian for this answer. It's incorrect.
All right, what is it?
Serbian.
See, it's kind of
the same,
kind of close.
Eastern Europe, yeah.
Christian always said I was very bad at like hearing other languages and picking them. He's very good at it.
Yeah, it's not a good trait to not be good at if you want to be good at this quiz.
If you're living in Europe, especially not. But he's very good at it, and I'm very bad at it. Clearly.
Well, hopefully we've got 1 point there. Let's hope we can get another 1 or 2 with question number 4, Bree. Hey. Besia plakarena, aku sudah kukap. Saya melihat semuanya, saya melihat sekarang. Saya mendapat matahari, mau serang pejuang. Menari melalui api, karena saya seorang juara dan anda akan mendengar saya menguam lebih keras dari singa. Karena saya seorang juara dan anda akan mendengar saya menguam Got it?
Yeah. Is it Katy Perry Raw?
Katy Perry Raw is absolutely correct.
Yes.
We're on a roll with the songs.
I think I've got a technique now.
It's a tricky language.
I need to not listen to like the language, and I need to listen to the tune to pick the song. But
it's hard when I can't sing for the life of me. At least you got 2 points now. Any idea with the language?
I have never heard before.
Yeah, well, that's probably the case because I've absolutely fucked it. I've got lots of co-workers who speak this language. Do you want to have a guess?
Yeah, hang on, no, play me a little bit more.
Yeah, there's like 5 more seconds of it.
Go on. Is it like Indian or something?
Indian, is that your guess?
Yeah.
Indian's incorrect. Indonesian.
Oh!
Indonesian. The co-workers are going to be very angry at me for the way I've pronounced all their words there, but there you go. Indonesian. Have you been to Indonesia?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't think anyone would have got that. That was very hard.
I haven't heard the language before.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not a language you hear in everyday life when you're living in Europe, is it? But
no.
I've got one more. You're on 2 points at the moment.
Okay.
This is big, Bray, because if you get a point here, you're top of the leaderboard.
All right.
This is massive.
And my competitive nature is coming out now.
Are you feeling nervous?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, here we go. Tutti stanno facendo un ballo nuovo di secca ora. Dai piccola fai la locomozione. Society piacera se ti dai una possibilità.
Okay, hey, no, you need to keep playing. I know the song.
Yeah. Just for everyone at home, you're in a deep state of concentration there.
Yeah. I figured the technique. Okay, it's Locomotion by Kylie Minogue.
Correct.
Yep. And
that's
now
3 points. So you're on top now. But
we're winning now.
Yeah, we're winning. But see if you can get the language.
Yeah.
La mia sorellino può farlo con facilità è più facile imparare le ABC. Quindi dai, fai la locomozione con me.
Okay, is it like South Korean or something?
South Korean? That's an interesting guess. Is that your answer?
Yeah, well, I know you're probably going to give me a buzzer there, aren't you? Because you looked
yeah, I'll do a little drum roll. The last point on offer in this Where Do We Begin quiz. You're already top of the leaderboard as it stands. Can you get to 4 points?
Obviously not.
Obviously not. Yeah, South Korea was a very interesting guess. You were going very European for your first few. The first few were European. So was this.
Oh.
Italian.
Oh my gosh, I learned Italian for 11 years in school.
Did you?
Oh, it's so embarrassing. I'm so bad.
And look, I'm probably going to sound stupid saying this, but I thought the pronunciation was semi-alright in that.
I just got very excited the fact that I learned that I got Locomotion.
Well, and because you are on top of the leaderboard, we've got some little victory music to play, Bree. Very well done. Anyone you'd like to dedicate your little win there to?
I just want to apologise to Christian that I'm very bad at picking languages and he's going to hang it over
and
me
German
for the rest
as well.
of my days. Oh,
German.
dear.
Do you think he'll be listening?
I'm not going to make him listen to this podcast. I'm sorry. Or at least this last half, I'll be like, you can turn it off now. So he just doesn't hear because that's embarrassing.
Oh, well, look, it's not embarrassing the fact that you're top of the leaderboard, which massive congratulations to you. We've still got lots of guests to come this year. They might overtake you, they might not. We might see you in a final series at the end of the year. See how you go. Hopefully you can win more finals than our Essendon Bombers. But
let's hope. But no, let's hope that they get up today and it's a beautiful day outside.
It is. Perfect day for footy.
So let's hope that they thrive on that as well.
Indeed. And just before we go, we do have the Where Do We Begin caps that we speak about in the Pocket Profile, actually, on the Patreon. We give away a code, or we'll give people a code, discount code for the Where Do We Begin caps at the end of every episode. I reckon we'll just go with Bree Walker. Oh. So if you plug in Bree Walker, just go to wheredowebegin.com.au. There's a little shop section. You can get that, get your cap 10% off. Type in Bree Walker. Bing, bang, boom. You got your cap. Too easy. And I reckon that just about wraps us up because you've got to go have lunch with your mate. So thank you very much, Bree.
Before the footy. So thanks for having me. It's been fun.
It's been super fun. Go Bombers.
Yes, go the Bombers.
See you next time, guys. Been good. Your book is sexy. Or book is sexy. Or book is sexy. Or book is sexy. Or book is so sexy. Or book is sexy. Or book is sexy. O book is sexy. Samma napp, den är sann i sim.